Today we're gonna make the perfect rice ball. Does it sound like something strange and meaningless? It really is. But think about it, a grain of rice before cooking is extremely hard. It looks like a little piece of glass, a little piece of ceramic. It's this property of being something hard that you can sand and polish later that we want in our perfect balls. They sent us this idea, and I started researching the types of rice to see if there was any rice better for making this ball. And then I entered the parallel world of rice varieties. There are many types of rice, but I brought four for us to compare and see which is best for making the perfect ball. This is the common one. It's the rice we eat in our daily lives. It sticks together a little. Some people prefer it fluffier. Next, we have the parboiled rice. It's a rice that's a little darker. The grain is dark, and after cooking, it also turns out different, a slightly drier rice. This name, parboiled, is pretty strange, but it actually means partially boiled. It comes from the English partial boiling. In other words, partially boiled or parboiled. That's because when rice is still in its husk, resembling a small grain of wheat, boiling it helps the husk come off more easily. But at the same time, this transfers some of the nutrients from the husk, the vitamins and all the good stuff in the husk, to the rice grain, and makes the rice grain more resistant. So in the end, we get a rice that's a bit darker, less brittle, more nutritious, and less sticky. But to be honest with you, I prefer eating regular rice. I think it tastes better. But what caught my attention to make the perfect ball was gohan, which is Japanese rice. Helena at home loves this type of rice, so we bought a box of this rice. There was a little left over, and I decided to do a test for the perfect ball. Look at how beautiful, but not quite. Gohan is much stickier than regular rice, so it forms little blocks like this. When you touch it, it already starts sticking to your hand. And I thought that was a good feature for making a ball, because you can make a paste. It's like glue. And that's what I did with this rice here. I started pounding, grinding, and formed this ball. I let it harden here at Manuel do Mundo for about 15 days, and it turned into practically a stone. But then, three problems happened. First, it cracked a lot. It formed some really ugly cracks here. Second, you can still see a lot of marks from the rice grains, and that's not good. And third, it developed mold. That's why it looks so horrible, like moldy rice. It's not just the appearance, it really is moldy rice. But the good thing is that this has practically turned into a stone. So I did a test here with some sandpaper. If we sand this little rice ball, you can see that it takes a nice finish. It becomes smooth. I had already decided to do it with gohan, but then I discovered another rice. It's glutinous rice, also known as modagon. It's much stickier than gohan. So, when you touch it, you can already tell it's a sticky dough that forms a kind of glue. Its grain is also different. It's a little white grain, a bit smaller, really cute. But then comes the question, right? Why would anyone use a rice that looks like a sticky goo to make mochi, which is a rice dessert? I really like these Japanese sweets that aren't so industrialized. This one is probably made in a factory, but it's made from rice. And the cool thing is that this one is green tea flavored. So, I hadn't even opened it yet. Let's see what it's like. Weld. Check this out. Little rice candy. It's super sticky. It feels like jelly if we break it. I feel kind of tricked. You know, there's nothing like what's in the picture here. Inside, it's just as gooey as it is on the outside. Let's see if it's at least worth the 119 calories per piece. It's like tea-flavored rubber. I don't recommend it, no. Look, like I was telling you, I really like this kind of candy, but this tea-flavored one wasn't good at all. Here's the thing. If we can make the rice turn into something like glue goo, and then let it harden until it becomes a rock, I think that's the ideal rice for us to try. And more, this one is a rice candy with green tea. So we can use green tea as a natural coloring to make a green ball. It's a dull color, right? The package made me expect a nicer green, but once it's finished and polished, it'll look cool. We have three main challenges. The first is the rice texture. I don't want the grains to show in the final effect. I want something extremely smooth. Then we have the cracks. If the ball is perfect, it can't have any cracks. And finally, there's the mold issue. I don't want everything to end up moldy. Let's start making rice. Let's use a rice cooker, which is the classic way to make Japanese rice. I'll Make 2 cups so it yields a lot. And I'll try to use green tea as a coloring. It won't turn out green, but I think this rice ball deserves a bit of color. Most recipes say to wash the rice first, but I don't want to do that. When you wash it, the rice gets less sticky. You remove some of the starch that's there, but I want it to be sticky. Ah, how cute. The rice came out kind of gray, right? Let's see if the taste is very different. It doesn't have any taste. It's like cornstarch porridge. Let's check the consistency. It's still really hot. It's more watery than I'd like, but I think I can already work with it. The idea is to mash it well and make a paste like a glue out of this. The more I stir, the more I get rid of that rice texture. That's not so important right now, because first, we need to make the core of the ball, which I want to make out of rice, yes. I'm not going to put anything different in the middle, but I can mix in a bit of uncooked rice here. I don't need to use this goo for the core. You wanted a different slime recipe, right? Here it is. Glutinous rice slime. Stickier than slime made with white glue and shaving foam. Let's see if my crazy idea will work. I'm going to mix in a little bit of dry rice here. Rice that hasn't been cooked yet. Try to form a hard dough. This is kind of like a composite, right? 2 materials with different characteristics. Trying to form a third one, like gravel and concrete. The advantage, theoretically, would be that this dry rice I added can absorb the water from the slime and make it harden faster, dry faster. I can't even make a ball shape here. There's something I've been thinking about that I can't let happen. If I start right away with a very big ball, what will happen? The outside will dry first, and that's why it cracks. When this rice dries, it shrinks. It contracts because the water is gone. Only the solid part is left in the middle. But it tries to hold on to that part inside, which hasn't dried yet. So there's not enough rice, not enough dough left to cover the inside part. And that's why it cracks. So the secret to avoid cracking would be to put on very thin layers and gradually make the ball bigger. This can take a few days. Let's start then with a tiny ball, a little bigger than a marble, because I've already seen that trying to work with this mess and make a giant ball is going to go wrong. I'm going to have to resort to something. Put a little bit of cornstarch on my hand so I can pick it up without it sticking. Make a few, right? That way we have a back. If one cracks, we already have another one. I had an idea to make this dry quickly and without cracking. Let's let it dry inside the rice itself. This is that rice we counted and left here. It was dirty, right? Everyone touched it. We didn't want to use it for anything else. We left it here for other experiments. And the cool thing about rice is that it absorbs a lot of water. So when people drop their cell phone in water and stuff, they put it in rice to dry. So this is great because I imagine it will absorb the moisture really fast, and maybe in a few days, we'll already have a really hard little ball to start putting the other layers around it. So I'm not worried about texture yet, and I'm not too concerned about cracks. What I really want is for it to dry quickly, so we can put on the next layers. It's strange to look at this and think it's going to turn to a perfect ball. It's kind of hard, right? To make that mental leap. The little balls are already drying. They're much harder than they were this morning. That's great news. But now it's time for some dirty work, which is to take that rice from the pot and turn it into a uniform dough. Break up all those little grains. The good news is that I found out that at the time the rice spent in the pot was enough for it to absorb all the water and get really soft, really easy to break up. But I found a problem. I'm going to have to make a bit more rice because I want to do some tests here. This time, I'm going to add a lot more water so it gets really well cooked. I forgot to add the green tea. I'm going to add a lot this time. No holding back. I can't use this goo right now because I have to let those little balls harden. So I'm going to bag everything up. That way it'll stay airtight and won't lose this consistency over the next few days. And I had a bad idea. Let's try to dry it faster. Speed up the process using this here. This is a 3D printer filament dryer. Basically, it's a mini heater. It doesn't go past a certain temperature, and it can measure the relative humidity inside it. So at least a few of the little balls I'll leave in here to see what happens. Look how cool. It goes up to 50 degrees Celsius. It's at 59% relative humidity. I'm going to leave it here for 24 hours. Tomorrow, we'll see how it turned out. The pot signaled that the rice is cooked, but I think it's still too soft. Let's try to finish it on the stove for real, because this won't work. This is going to turn into an extremely liquid paste. There's no way to shape it afterward. Let's heat it up on the stove. An induction one here. The thing here is to watch the steam coming out. That means the water is leaving. These bubbles I'm seeing mean less work. That's less drying to do later. Besides, the rice is already breaking down in here, which is great. It's already turning into a mush. so I won't have to work so hard when I take it out of the pot. That's nice, but I can't stop stirring or it'll burn. Let's see if the consistency is good. I need to break up the rice grains. There can't be any visible rice grains here. We need a more automatic way to grind this, right? Something more industrial. Look at this mess. It's a consistency that would take me a few days to achieve by hand. It's not just rice on top of rice. The question now is, will this harden enough for me to shape it? It's too runny. Let's store it and try to use it in the next few days. We could call it Shrek's vomit ball, right? The strategy now is this. This goes in the fridge, and I'll use it over the next few days. I'll add a new layer to the ball each day. It'll dry out, and I'll keep making it thicker and thicker until theoretically one day it will become a perfect rice ball. Let's see if there's a difference between the balls that stayed inside the dehumidifier and the ones that stayed on top of the rice. The ones on the rice cracked. There are two that are cracked, and they're still soft inside. This one isn't. It's hard, but this other one, look, these ones didn't crack and seem to be much drier. I think the dehumidifier made a big difference. Let's spread the goo around and then roll it in the rice, which is just regular rice. I'm not using glutinous rice to form this amalgam. Just goo with rice. I think the consistency is too soft, but I'm still going to risk putting it in the dehumidifier. Next time, I'll probably have to throw some of these balls away because they won't fit anymore. If this dries by tomorrow, that'll be great news. It's working here, look. 6 firm little balls. The rice on the outside is falling off since it didn't stick well, but they're completely dry. Look here, it forms a shiny, brittle dough look. It really looks like glass. 2 decisions here. I'll only work with 2 balls from now on since they'll get big, won't fit everywhere, and we'll use a lot of material. Second, I'm going to try another rice dough that we've already prepared here. It's the same rice, okay. But we used a little less water and didn't add that awful green tea because I wasn't happy with it. Danny prepared it this morning. It's really sticky, but it's not watery. It's more solid. Try to cover the whole ball with this goo here, look. Then we coat it with the rice. I'm starting to feel optimistic. Look, it's taking on an interesting shape. Man, we really get ourselves into some crazy things. This is something different from anything we've ever done. That's the most important thing. Let's do the rice coating here, but it's not just a rice coating. I press it down really well. I make the rice grains blend with the sticky dough. So here we have a mixture, right? It's like rice concrete, of mushy rice, rice gel with hard rice, right? With the uncooked grain. I'll let it rest here, so it keeps its round shape in the rice cradle. If I put it in the dehumidifier now, it would get pressed and turn crooked. The mixture will thicken a bit. A carnival popped up in the middle of everything. So I brought everything to my house to keep working on it these days. The idea is always to add another layer of goo, roll it in the rice, and then dry it inside the PLA dehumidifier. I started with 2 balls, but eventually have to discard 1. I also thought it might be cool if the ball was green. So I'm going back here to the green goo so we don't have another white ball in the collection. Another problem is that there comes a point when it won't fit inside the dryer anymore. So my workaround here is to put the dryer inside a box, the rice container on top, and the ball inside the rice container, which also helps keep that spherical shape. Oh, look at how big this thing is. It's working really well. It's very firm. It doesn't smell like mold. It cracked a little. I patched it up with some goo to cover those holes. And it's already at a pretty interesting size. Since our reference is always the wooden ball, this one is much bigger, which is good, because we can start trimming it down to see how it will look. What I think is cool about this sphere is that you have no idea what the final result will be. Think about it. What exactly will the texture of this ball be? What will be the pattern, the design that we'll see in the end? I have no idea either. I'm so afraid of breaking everything, you know. Wow, that really wears it down. While this machine is working, let me take the opportunity to tell you that we just released Dinosaurs and Prehistoric Life. It's a gorgeous book from the same collection as Mysteries of the Universe. On each double page, there's always the fossil that was found and how we imagine this animal would have looked. There's a full video where we showed everything about the book. I'm leaving it here in the card. There's also a link below if you want to know the price, where to buy it, and everything else. Yes, there will be a launch now on March 28th in Sao Paulo on a Saturday at 11 in the morning at Galeria Magalu in Conjunto Nacional. It will be at Estante Virtual. If you want to know how to get the password and everything else, check Estante Virtual's Instagram profile, Estante Virtual. Deal.
Fechou?
Look like a hole. Wow, look, it was already super spherical. One layer didn't stick very well to the other. Here, we're gonna have to fix it. It's starting to look like a moon. But I don't want it to be all full of holes like this. I want to cover up all these little holes. I want a smooth ball. Should we reinforce it a bit with super glue here? Also, I think the final varnish will have to be something other than rice. Because rice is very porous, it will absorb a lot of water. It covered up a mold stain here. It was good that we put it through the machine because it took off the excess, and then we discovered these living things that want to infect our ball. But I don't think they can withstand super glue. Oh man, this machine. There's no way around it. I need a few layers of gunk on top here to make this thing work. I took work home once again. The idea now is to spread some of this rice with tea on top, kind of like a varnish, to cover up the irregularities and fill in the little holes. The problem is that I left it drying there for too long and the ball cracked. I don't think it's strong enough. I'm going to put a lot of super glue here so it doesn't crack completely. And let's see what happens. It came back like this with lumps, with bumps. It's not looking great. Let's put it in the machine to see if it fixes it. Oops. Ouch.
Tudo que não podia acontecer, aconteceu. Olha a criação de fungo que tá aqui dentro. O cheiro disso é de cerveja estragada. Tá horrível. Será que dá conserto? Não vamos desistir, né? Não vamos desistir nessa altura do campeonato. Jansen tá perguntando aqui se no futuro a gente pode ter problema por ter uma criação de fungo dentro da bola perfeita.
Honestly, yes, but I have no idea what the problem is. Let's make the fungus suffocate in the glue. I'm resorting to last-ditch measures. The idea here is to reinforce it with super glue without holding back. I'm using QFS, which is that super glue accelerator, this spray here, and mixing it a lot with the rice powder that came out of the machine. It's going to end up a ball full of scars, and I'm hoping it turns out to be something beautiful in the end. The cool thing about this is that I have no idea what will come out of it. It's coming apart in places. I won't mess up this time. Let's reinforce it. Use a coarser sandpaper. Let's see. You need to sand it a lot to make it look good. So that was already cool, huh? Look. Should I stop already? It's not an easy material, guys. What we're noticing is happening is that all the rice I used as glue, as paste, is falling apart. It's breaking into pieces. What really holds the thing together are the rice grains that weren't cooked, that are still raw. So, as we sand the ball, little pieces of it keep falling off, and it starts coming apart. I can only keep it spinning by adding more and more glue. Look what happens here. When the sandpaper removes this green shell, it finds more fragile rice underneath and starts opening up a bunch of holes. Look here. See? Well, you will end.
Oh.
It's looking good. I think the hardest part is over. This ball is basically a fungus bomb, right? But on the outside, it's looking pretty cool. Up to 2000 grit. A little bit of carnauba wax. We've been working on this perfect ball for about 2 months. We couldn't beat the fungus, We kind of sealed the cracks. I think we beat that rice-like texture. It ended up really smooth. But anyway, on the outside it turns into a really cool ball. This is our perfect rice sphere. Ah, everyone here thinks this ball looks like some kind of celestial body, something we've seen before. So I'm looking it up here in our Misterios do Universo. I was torn between the moon and Pluto. Both have these white spots here that look a lot like our perfect rice ball. I just hope that inside it's in better condition. Will this ball stay intact in 5 years, or will the mold have eaten it from inside? It's not very easy to make a perfect ball out of food. We've already tried with eggs. That turned out nice. We tried with cake. That was terrible. But the coolest one was the perfect chocolate ball. Chocolate made from scratch at Manuel do Mundo.